Another year, another Pokemon game. That is the best view of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond in my opinion. This and Pokemon Shining Pearl are remixed in 2007 games, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. While these remakes are a bit disappointingly safe, I still played Brilliant Diamond for over 30 hours. Overall, I'd argue that I enjoyed my time with them, but I definitely had some issues with them. Let's get right into it. We all know the, in quotes, story by now, right? A young kid gets influenced by a family friend to head down to Lake Verity. There's one problem with this though. Wild Pokemon appear there. Both the player and his rival get attacked by Starlies. With some quick thinking, the player will open up Professor Rowan's briefcase that has 3 Pokemon in it. Chimchar, Turtwig, and Piplup. I picked Turtwig because I just adore Torterra. Professor Rowan then decides to let the player and his rival keep their Pokemon and gives them a Pokedex. After that, the player can march forward and take down 8 Pokemon gyms, the Elite Four, as well as Team Galactic. That's really about it. It's Pokemon after all. I actually want to start off with the positives because there is a decent bit to say here. The quality of life improvements are off the charts. I love how one can swap their party Pokemon with Pokemon that are in the player's boxes at near any time. To access this, one can just go to their party, then hit the R button. Another one that is incredible is the swap held items feature. This is because I love the amulet coin to pieces. The amulet coin will double the amount of money earned from a trainer battle if the Pokemon that is holding it takes part in the fight. TMs and Pokeballs are expensive, man, so when I would be swapping my team around, I could just hit the swap held item feature to move the item in mere seconds. Back in the day, this was a huge pain. I'd have to take the item and put it into the bag, scroll to it, and put it on the new lead Pokemon. It is a first world problem for sure, but this has saved me a lot of time, damn it. Another big one is the fact that HMs aren't tied to the player's party Pokemon. These are now tied to the Pokétech, and a random Pokemon will help the player perform the moves. Staravia will help the player use Fly. B-Bear will help the player use Surf or Rock Climb. Cute little Bidoof will use Rock Smash. I hated juggling HMs in my party Pokemon. It got to the point where I'd usually just carry an HM slave. Now I can use all 6 party slots to my heart's content. Speaking of using all 6 of those party slots, this next thing is probably my favorite thing in the entire game. The Grand Underground is incredible. After the player sees all 151 Sinnoh Pokemon, the player will open up the National Dex. After opening the National Dex, so many Pokemon become available in the game. In this clip here, I caught a Cyndaquil, who is my favorite starter, evolved into Typhlosion, and added it to my party. The Pokemon that appear in the Underground are so diverse. There are different rooms that will make certain Pokemon appear. There are volcanic, grassy, desert-like, crystal cavern-like, water, and other terrains. It is a good amount of fun just bobbing in between rooms and seeing what Pokemon will appear there. The player can also make their own secret base and place statues in it. These statues help influence what Pokemon appear. There are statues for each type with varying degrees of helpfulness. How does one get a statue though? The player can dig into the wall when they see a shine come from it. A small minigame will come up where the player can try to uncover objects by hitting the wall with 2 types of hammers. If the player can fully uncover the item, they can add it to their inventory. If the player hits the wall too many times, it will collapse. While traveling, the player will see a Diglett or Dugtrio. They'll drop energy that the player can collect, and when the player collects up to 40 points. Supposedly, the more the energy fills up, the easier it is to find shiny Pokemon. Diglett will give the player 1 unit of energy, meanwhile, Dugtrio will supply the player with 3. I also need to praise the fact that the wild Pokemon are visible when the player explores the underground. One stupid thing about the visible Pokemon, though, is the fact that the shiny Pokemon appear as normal. This must be a pain in the ass for shiny hunters. Speaking of Pokemon being visible, Pokemon will follow the trainer once again. This is such a nothing feature for a lot of people, but I just adore it. It definitely was pulled off way better in the Let's Go games, but I'm happy that this feature is here nonetheless. I also think it's funny that Pokemon go at different speeds. Fast Pokemon like Crobat will keep up with the player. Meanwhile, Pokemon like Torterra and Gastrodon, they're super slow. I think it helps give each Pokemon character and personality. At the same time though, it could be argued that the scale is just thrown off. I've seen pictures of Pokemon like Gyarados following the player, and it made me giggle a bit. Even though the game is pretty easy, the post-game has some genuinely difficult trainers to it. I low-key almost got destroyed by Cynthia during the Elite Four fight. I thought they could just send out Gastrodon and use Ice Beam on the Garchomp and 1-hit KO, done. Oh boy, was I wrong. The Garchomp is holding a Yacht Berry. This will weaken super effective Ice-type moves. So survive the Ice Beam, use Sword Dance, and decide to go to town on my ass. I only had 1 Pokemon left standing at the end of the battle. The Elite Four members can be rematched numerous times, getting stronger twice. Cynthia's Garchomp eventually gets to level 88. That's just scary to even think about. The Pokemon Gym leaders can be rematched once per day after the National Dex has been obtained, and they get stronger once. This is a great way to farm both EXP and money. The Battle Tower also exists, but after seeing various YouTube clips, I'm good. It just looks like RNG hell. Don't worry, only a few more positives before I go all negative Nancy. I really like the fact that running shoes are bound to left control stick. No more of this hold down the B button nonsense. If one wants to walk, they can just use the directional pads. I think this is actually a great solution. I like how the player can walk diagonally and the fact that it destroys the ice-type gym puzzle. It should be noted that ILCA patched this out recently. The player can use fly off the top map itself, which can be a decent time saver. There's also a waypoint flag that can help the player out if they are lost. I also love the fact that this game has a way to get Giratina Mew legitimately. If the player has a Pokemon Sword or Shield save file on their Switch, they'll get the former. If they have a save file for one of the Let's Go games, they'll receive the latter. It's still definitely pretty scummy in its own way, but it benefits me this time, so I'm much easier about it. So now I want to shift to the one big thing that I found to be neutral. This one's a bit controversial, but I don't think that the Force EXP share is that bad. I guess the fact that it is Force and there is no option to turn it off, that's silly and bad. That would literally take a few minutes to implement and would give the hardcore players a challenge, or even people who like the grind. At the same time though, I don't really want to sit there and grind anymore. When I was younger and had more time, I absolutely did not mind a good grind. But now with the job and stuff, the Force EXP share just makes things easier and less time consuming. Not to mention, say one finds a Pokemon in the underground that they really enjoy. They can pretty effortlessly put the Pokemon in their party, have them naturally catch up with the rest of their Pokemon. I'm still somewhat torn on this issue. It makes the grind less painful, but the game, really all the way up until Elite 4, is literally autopilot level easy, and the EXP share is a big culprit of that problem. I've gone this far without complaining too much, so here it is. I hate the chibi art style. I personally adored the character models in the Game Boy. As I'm weird, I thought those were kind of charming. One thing I really did not like about Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum originally was the fact that the characters' heads were just way too big. It also seemed like a Funko Pop without eyes or something. Something about it seemed off. And these remakes, they don't make it better, especially when the camera pans up close to the characters. I just find it to be super ugly. It is kind of jarring to see the normal models in battle too. I know this part is obviously super subjective. I saw a lot of people saying that they like the art style. It's super cute, and it's a good homage to the original game. I will happily take a pass on this art style. Another thing that I found very annoying is the fact that random encounters are the only way to catch Pokemon, barring the underground. Yes, one can use repels, but let me paint the scene of how this doesn't alleviate my problem with it. I was trudging through Victory Road and getting annoyed with all the boring Pokemon appearing. Golbat, Onix, Graveler, you know, the annoying ones. But I kept thinking to myself, this will all be worth it for a rare Pokemon. And sure enough, Steelix revealed itself. If I would have sprayed that Max Repel, I would have missed that beautiful Steelix. I just think for a game about catching them all, it is very counterintuitive to not be able to see what monster you can fight before the battle. That's not to mention there are still arbitrary 2 different versions that cost a full $60, walking the player out of even more Pokemon. At least with generations 1 through 5, one can argue that the hardware and small screen wouldn't support it that well. But here, is this just for being faithful? Speaking of which, sometimes it feels like the game is just being faithful to be faithful, which actively hurts the game at times. Like, why are TMs not reusable again? It almost seems like ILCA or whoever was in charge of this decision wasn't even confident, as gym leaders give the player 5 TMs when they've been defeated. Where's the Platinum content? I'd argue that the Distortion World was the most memorable thing about my Platinum playthrough a couple years ago. Even going on the Pokemon franchise's past, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, those including Crystal content. Even when the remakes missed the Sister Games content, like Fire Red and Leaf Green, that didn't have yellow elements, they still added several new areas to explore. This, for the most part, just feels like Diamond and Pearl HD, which is disappointing. I'd argue out of all the Pokemon remakes, these are the weakest ones that didn't add much of anything to the original games, except for the admittedly very nice quality of life enhancements, varied typing, as well as the Grand Underground. I can hear the defendants now. It's a remake! That's an awful excuse. I guess I should have kept the HM style to your Pokemon, right? It actually hurts the game in my opinion, but that's faithful. That's how it was in Diamond and Pearl. Screw being able to access the Pokemon boxes at near any point. That wasn't in Diamond and Pearl. What about the improvements to the Grand Underground? May as well strip that from the game because that's not how it was. I've seen plenty of people praise the EXP share because it helps with grinding, but that wasn't in the original, so remove it, right? This just annoys me in particular because it seems like Pokemon defenders will use the "it's faithful" excuse when it meets their agenda only. I think a huge point of a remake should be to fix the problems with the original game. Between whether still slowing the player down, breakable TMs, not adding Platinum content, and arbitrary roadblocks, there are still plenty of ways that they could have improved upon the original games. That's not to mention that the animations are still laughably bad, these games are plagued with glitches, again there are 2 versions that cost a full $60, and that the Global Wonder Station is still not open yet, a full month after the game's release. That's not to mention they'll be linked to Pokemon Home and Nintendo Switch Online. God, the Pokemon Company is greedy. These selling over 6 million units in a few weeks wasn't enough money for them? One way that I've been thinking about it is this. Each generation adds at least one big thing that separates it from the generation before it, and that should be improved upon in the future. For Generation 5, I'd argue that reusable TMs was a big feature. In Generation 6, they added Mega Evolutions. In Generation 7, they added Z-Moves, and lastly, in Generation 8, they added Gigamaxing. All these don't return. I just personally think that if you're going to remake a game and have the audacity to charge a full $60 for it, it should feel like a new game, and these just kinda don't. At least with a faithful remake like SpongeBob SquarePants, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, they usually charge less. That game was only $30. Or let's take a look at Final Fantasy VII Remake. That was a full $60, or I guess $70 on new consoles, but is an entirely new look at the game. With how much these damn games were going to sell, I'd really like to see an ambitious entry with a bigger budget. Mainline Pokemon will always sell. These are the lowest scoring mainline Pokemon games on Metacritic, but does that really matter at this point when they just sell like hotcakes? I may have bitched a decent bit about the game, but overall, I enjoyed my time with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. It definitely has its issues, but I got over 30 hours of enjoyment out of it. It was a nice passive game to play while I was spending time with my family over Thanksgiving. The quality of life features definitely give them an edge over the originals, but Platinum is still probably the definitive Sinnoh experience, at least in my opinion. It is still great fun seeing what Pokemon are in the game and experimenting which ones are fun to use. The Grand Underground makes this aspect of the game one of, if not, the best the series has ever had. It may be brain dead easy at times, as well as letting its faithfulness get in the way, but I think it is an above average game at the very least. I give Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining and Pearl a 5 out of 7. I enjoyed them a decent deal, but I wouldn't call them great or anything. As I open with, it's just another Pokemon game.